Hello and welcome to the Women's Marketing Club, and this is your host Claire Humphreys, and I am very excited today to be interviewing the lovely Jen Tiller. So Jen, welcome.
Thank you, Claire. It's a great opportunity to reach people who are in our industry. It's a joy. So I'd love to share some ideas with you.
Brilliant, fantastic. That's exactly what I want to hear. So I know bits and pieces of different things you do, because like myself and many of us, you have many strings to your bow. But tell me in your words, what is it that you do?
Well, one of the core things I do is help people overcome chronic conditions such as asthma, trauma, anxiety, things that they feel like they're stuck with long term and they don't have any way out, or they just manage it in some fashion, whether that's medically or otherwise. And they just don't think there's any other option. And it's not true quite often. There's usually a healthy, natural way around to be much more than managing.
Wow, that sounds fascinating. So what sort of tools do you use with that?
I use a mixture, a tailored approach of things like NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming, adjusting how the mind functions, how the emotions work. And also a core of it is better breathing. It seems such a simple idea to breathe well, but people have no idea that when you get tense, you've got no awareness that your breathing has gotten short, sharp, shallow, and that it has an impact on your whole immune system and your mindset. And it's one of the simplest things to change once you know how to do it. I had a client this morning that came in. She was stressed, she was upset, she was anxious. We did some slow breathing exercises, got her tummy muscles working. She walked out with a great big smile on her face and just so relaxed.
That sounds fantastic. So tell me, what inspired you to do this work?
Well, I'm one of those classic people who have been on the healer's journey for a long time. I had very severe illness as a child. I had life-threatening asthma. I had a lot of allergies. I was one of these people they called allergic to the 20th century. Yeah, it's a great label when your doctors give you that one. And I'm really glad it's the 21st century, because I'm over that.
You're over that. Yeah, you've moved on.
And I developed postnatal depression, and combining that with physical ill health, I ended up agoraphobic. I was scared to go out because the doctors were saying, look, if you can smell something, anything, you're in danger, run. It was just that extreme. So when I eventually came across the different techniques that I now use, the Buteyko Breathing method, the NLP, Reiki, all sorts of different techniques, it changed my life. I went from really ill to really functional in an incredibly short space of time, and I love to bring that to people, to have the shortcuts to well-being I so desperately wanted.
Wow, so that sounds like a fascinating journey. I do definitely see the value of relaxation and good breathing.
Yeah. Well, it changes the biochemistry, and the idea is to make it a normal automatic thing, not just something you do as a one-off every now and again. It's the body does it all the time. It changes things forever.
And so what would you say was the game changer for you in terms of either training or software or products, such as seminars, anything like that? Is there anything that's really...
Yeah, well, apart from the technical training for what I do, one of the things that's been really fabulous for me was a series of workshops done by a gentleman called Dario Cucci, C-U-C-C-I, if you're looking it up, who does the serve and sell workshops, which is about creating a really aligned, ethical way to sell what's important to you. So you reach the people that you need to reach, and you connect with them, and you serve them, and you give them what they need, and you make good money at it. So it's totally ethical, and finding that alignment was such a gift, because I've been on some other training which, quite frankly, they just went push.
Yeah.
And that's just not who I am. So.
Yeah, that's quite common. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, actually, because I think that's a difficult thing that a lot of women in business, starting up, and you know, even when you've been in the business for a while, that idea of is a difficulty, I think, for a lot of people, a sort of a barrier that they need to break through in terms of charging their worth, charging even for what they do. You know, we've all been through that journey.
Yeah. How often do we give stuff away in all directions without having a certainty that there will be something following on, or that you feel, you know, just confident that you're going to get the results, they're going to get value, and that does the job.
Definitely. So what advice has helped you in terms of setting up your own business, or what advice would you give to others that might be looking to sort of set up?
That's always a good question. I've found that knowing your worth is actually the core of it, but knowing who your audience truly is. You want to help everybody, you can only help the people that turn up. So really understanding your ideal client so that your marketing is addressed to the people who are ready to hear you and ready to work with you. And those ones who can actually afford to pay you. You can always, if you make a lot of money, you can always give something away, you can do the scholarship option, but know who your people are. And when you do that, it simplifies every aspect of your work.
Absolutely. So it sounds like you've been on quite a journey yourself.
Yes, it's been a long time. I've been in business for 25 years, and it's longer than that doing other things. I was a piano teacher for years before I became a therapist. So yeah,
there are, like many of us, as I say, I think we're coming into a time now where we have more of what are called portfolio careers. This idea of doing lots of different things, and that's certainly something that I do, and quite a few of the women that I've interviewed have been similar to that.
I think I like the idea that you can expand what you do rather than going, it's this or that. Like, I'm a therapist, have been for years, I'm a trainer, I teach other therapists, I coach somewhat, but I don't feel limited. I can just be me, and that, if anything, is the advice I would give everybody. Know who you are and live to that.
Yeah, I think you're right there. I think that is essential. I talked a lot before in one of our other interviews about the idea of developing yourself, because your business can obviously only grow as much as you do. Absolutely. So I think that sometimes people focus on the business skills rather than the other sort of personal skills, our own personal development, and that is the way, like you found out yourself, with the finding the right way with the sales and the tools that work for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And continuing to have fun, to sort of be curious in what's the next thing for me. And, you know, you're on a journey, you will bring all of who you are to whatever you do. And that's what your clients will be most attracted to, I think. I think it's a really important thing to recognise, that you don't have to change your approach. You'll refine it, you'll enhance it, it'll grow, but it's still the people that want to work with you are the people that you will want to work with, rather than chasing down random people and it's no fun. I must admit, I love my clients. They attract great people, and it's a joy.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I think you're right. I think there's a lot to be said for that in attracting the right people. I think a lot of people do go for a very sort of scattergun approach. It's certainly something I've learned about niching and.
Yeah, I used to think that niching was about limiting me, but it's just limiting the audience. It's going, okay, I have all of these skills, and the right person when they come will get all of me, but I simply want to work with a particular type of person with whose particular point in their lives, not just an age or a gender or a particular issue, but they're a particular point in their lives, and they're ready to move on, they're ready to move up, and they're ready to take responsibility for their own well-being. That's my focus. But whoever's here now will have the same version of that for themselves. They will know who they love to work with, and that's who you need to be addressing in that process, because and as you grow, that person will change too.
Yeah. What's been the most difficult thing, most challenging thing that you've had to face in terms of your business?
That's a really good question. I think the issue of trying to actually charge what I'm worth, as actually going back to that, is still the thing that I struggled with. But I do find, in terms of technology, I had very specific needs for the website that I wanted to develop. I'm creating a membership site for the community of therapists that I support. And that has been a nightmare at different points. It really has. I have really clear ideas of what I want, and people are trying to sell you a solution that does not match that. And being really, really strict on that is still what I want and it's still what I need, and finding the right service providers for that. It is about actually interviewing them. It is a job. They need to be interviewed. It's not just listening to and sort of saying, oh, well, I'll accept what you offer. No. This is what I want. Give me a quote. Give me this is how it's going to be done. This is going to be when it's done. And if they don't have a backup plan, because sometimes the technology is not my friend. And yet when it works, it's brilliant. It's an asset when it's right. But that's been my biggest business challenge, has been technology.
And you're getting through that now, would you say? Or you found yourself?
I have, I thought I had, and I'm still in the process of refining my support staff and delegating to finding good VA, virtual assistant to delegate to, things like that. Because you can't do everything yourself. You're very, very good at what your core walk is, but you can't necessarily do all the admin and all the backup unless that's your expertise. So, yeah, that sort of thing, finding the right people to work with, that you have a team, that's where I'm still focusing on.
Yeah, I think that's
it's an ongoing thing to work on.
That's another thing, isn't it, that you come up against being in business. That sort of time when you've got to outsource some of the stuff, or when you're busy doing your sort of working in your genius zone, shall we say?
Exactly.
So that you're not having to do all the rubbish that you don't really want to be doing and you don't like doing, and that takes up a lot of time, because there's always that sort of element. So yeah, it's a big step, isn't it, outsourcing that and finding the right person. But I think that's something that's a good thing to do, a good stage to get to, isn't it?
It definitely is, because I know I'm not as competent at working on technology as I am working with my clients. It's very, very simple. So I actually spend twice as much time doing something that would get me would cost me twice as much if I lost my client time. I'm not a fan of that. So it's actually more efficient and cheaper if you can do that as early as possible, because you can focus on what you're good at and make more money doing it.
That sounds like sound advice. I think our listeners will appreciate. And I believe that you have written a few books as well. Have you a book that you would recommend for our listeners?
I appreciate that offer. There's 1,000 books on my bookshelf, and if you come and become a client of mine, you can borrow them, because I have loads that I can recommend. But I did write a book. It's a simple book, but of affirmations. And people often say, well, I want to change my mindset, I want to move forward. And affirmations are great, but if you say something on the lines of, I am happy, I am healthy, I am wealthy, and you're sick, sad and broke, there's part of you that says, gosh, I'm lying to myself. And that's an uncomfortable feeling. So I wrote a book that is phrased in such a way that you can make it true as you say it, and so it's much easier to keep that going and change your mindset comfortably, instead of fighting yourself all the time. So it's the book is just called I Love. Affirmations.
What a great title.
Affirmations for a life worth living. That's how it goes.
Sounds fantastic. Thank you, Jen. Yeah. So, do you have a special offer for our listeners?
Yes, I'm thrilled to be able to reach your lovely audience, and I would like to offer a free consultation to anybody who wishes to quote this interview, and we can do it via a video call or in person if you can come to Letchworth. That would be really nice too. And the consultation can be on personal development, it can be business related, or it can be on creating your own products, such as books and online courses, if that's what you're interested in. So
fantastic.
Whatever you like.
Thank you very much. So how can women get in touch with you?
Well, you can go to my website, which I admit is in need of an update at the moment. It's jentiller.com. That's JENTILLER.com. Or if you're on Facebook, come and find me on The Breathing Coach, and get in touch with me. All the details are there.
Fantastic. That sounds absolutely wonderful. Jen, thank you so much for taking time out to come and talk to us today.
It was a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time, Claire.
Thank you.